Episode 95, Exercise, Lifelong Learning.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And we're closing another week with our, meanwhile, infamous, Exercise Friday. Welcome to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. And today we're going to be learning for the rest of our lives. Yay! No. We're not. Sorry to have to disappoint you. For those who are kind of like the book buggies, and kudos to you who will, say, "God damn it, you're bringing back so many bad memories about school that I don't want to deal with it anymore." And that being said, lifelong learning happens whether you want it to or not. There's no way you're going to get away from it, period. Life is going to be a process of learning. It's just set in fucking stone. So therefore, might as well make the most of it, because learning from experiences, this kind of street smart thing, is insanely rewarding. And the shit that I've learned in school, I don't know, maybe I applied 10% of it. Well, let's say 20, but 80% of the time that I was there and wasn't stoned, pissed, or wasted otherwise was kind of, wasted time. Not to say it wasn't fun. There were loads of drugs and other good memories, some less foggy than most, but it was a fucking great time and a great experience. And, this whole learning to socialize with other kids and, being together with others was, kind of interesting. Being exposed to different cultures and backgrounds when I lived in the United States was totally psych and nice, to get to learn to be with people who were, out of your social class, out of your cultural class, out of your, just out of reach otherwise. You got thrown into this petri dish of everything, and there you go, play with each other and get along, and don't beat each other up too much and shit like that. So all in all, the time in school and everything was very, very interesting. And, not so much the class part, but the social experiment that went on to it. So that kind of brings us to the first point, that learning isn't really limited to the stuff you get hammered into your head in school, right? It's much more about the side effects and the byproducts of your conventional education that really make you a human being. It's how not to get caught when smoking, in the corner of the playground. How to avoid that somebody figures out that you did your homework on the school bus instead of at home. Kind of, for me, it could have been, school bus work instead of homework. But, there are so many side effects that learning from life lessons that make you so much more successful than, those people who blindly go home, focus on the grades, study, and whatever. It doesn't really make for interesting characters. And more importantly, from my experience, it takes away a lot of creativity, right? Because there was this funny thing, that one funny quote I once read It was like, in school, you can't cheat on tests. And later in work life, you're going to have to collaborate with everybody. So it's kind of like a distance away from what curricular, well, not what educational methods should be used. And, this is just my idiotic take on it. There's a very famous teacher called Sir Ken Robinson, who is a Brit, obviously, and who has a very interesting take on this and a very much more funny way of presenting it. So he's got two very, very great TED Talks on YouTube. So look up Ken Robinson and, just try and wrap your head around the stuff that he's promoting and promoting justifiably. So now it's about education, and it's about training your brain and not letting it dumb down. And so therefore, we're going to have to look at the right input, because there are different mediums to convey information, and different people are receptive to different ways receptive to access to different kinds of information. I think that is adequate English to get the point across, right? There's some people who learn and take in information best at seminars, for instance, and having somebody PowerPoint you to death for days on end. And, there's just these avid little, people taking notes and comparing notes and sharing notes when they're having the breakfast break, and, not dozed off during the front lecture hammers coming down at you. Then there's those who are kind of recluses who, learn very well from studying, reading books. There's those that learn best from watching YouTube videos because they need the visual input. There are those who don't like or take advantage of the visual inputs and, are stimulated, their learning is stimulated mainly by audio transportation of information. That's, myself, because hey, I can multitask. I can listen to a podcast, learn shit, and get shit done at the same time. It's about efficiency. So, and then there's those that need that need their mentors at their side to take them by the hand and lead them through life, and they idolize these mentors and whatnot. And there's there's even those that take blogs and social media as their learning tool, because this rewarding feeling of clicking on the like button to uplift someone, whomever it may be, and to glorify them is for them at the same time a method of reward. And therefore they learn better because they make the connection with, hey, I read that on Facebook and I gave it a like, so therefore it must stay in my brain. More importantly, though, the question is, what did you learn, right? What did you take away, and that kind of bit. And that's really one of the things that you have to determine for yourself. So today's exercise is going to be a rather short one, but it's going to take a lot of reflection about yourself. And it's going to be difficult in that you're going to have to figure out a lot of stuff about yourself to increase the efficiency of your learning process, right? So number one, the first, first part of the exercise, is to figure out what input method you benefit most from, whatever. figure out whether you learn best from reading books or watching, YouTube videos, or whether you can't deal with the visual input and therefore, podcasts are better for you, or, audiobooks in that sense. Our books, while we're speaking of audiobooks, maybe it's books that are best for you to learn and study and, cram all this stuff together. Or, maybe it's a seminar. Sure. During the Rona, it's going to be difficult to attend one. But, once this whole thing's blown over, maybe that's going to be the missing link for you to actually take in information. And that's going to be number one, task number one, figuring out what type of person are you? What is, what are you most receptive for? Which type of input? Number two is going to be setting learning goals. And that's a totally different story, because here's a question that I'm going to ask you. What have you wanted to learn for a very long time? And what have you put on the back burner? Now I'm going to need you to cram through your back burner and to find, all the stuff that you wanted to learn, because now during the Rona times, there is actually no good excuse not to use those tons of downtime that you have to educate yourself and to reposition yourself for when this whole thing has blown over, right? There's tons of layoffs that are going to happen. There are tons of jobs going to be annihilated as a consequence of this. So using this time to figure out what you want to learn, what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, that's going to be the thing that's going to increase your market value once this whole thing has blown over. So task number one is figuring out what type of person you are, what information you're receptive to. Number two are your personal learning goals, and especially in context to this pandemic and the new world that we're going to have after it's blown over, and the skill set you want to have when it has done that, once it has blown over. So in that sense, have fun, enjoy, have a nice weekend. And I wish you the best of luck. If you have questions or comments or feedback or criticism or whatever, email it to theverybestpodcastintheworld@gmail.com. If you want to listen to additional episodes, go to theverybestpodcastintheworld.com. There's all of the episodes are there. You can also click on the button. It's also below every episode of the service that you subscribe your podcast with. Make sure to subscribe. If you have anyone in your friends or family or whatever who you think you need a kick in the behind, kick in the ass to learn something new, or needs to make their learning more effective, send them this episode, share it with them. Sharing is caring. And I will see you back on Monday, I hope, when we're going to talk about, I don't know yet. Let's see. Peace out. Stay tuned. I'll hear you again on Monday. Bye-bye.